feet hurting, world full of busy bees working. I ain't never met a free person, I don't get along with these earthlings. I'm trying to seek purpose, fight for something I believe's worth it. Feel the curse, I'ma reverse it. I don't dream cause I sleep nervous. Yet I keep flirting, face death like a Steve Irwin. Whole heat, I'ma drink thermos, tell the bartender keep serving. I'm trying to be perfect, using dirty shit to clean dirt with. Only happy when the weed burning, traded oxygen to breathe herb in. Till I see curtains, lungs fail and they cease working. Air is something that I need urgent, suffocating trying to squeeze words in. What would I do with my last breath? Would I yell? Would I cry? Would I laugh? Cause I'm glad that I'm past that mess. Till I pass, never felt that blessed. Even bad breath when you living is better than good breath. When you lack flesh, got a glass chest that I cracked and my lost breath hasn't made it back yet. I'm on my last breath, walking the last step. I'm on the last test, final answer and my last guess. Wonder what I gotta pass next. I'm on my last quest, so much harder than my last trek. Mad bless, hope I can outlast death. Grim Reaper got my address, down on my last cent. Cash spent from a check I don't even have yet from my last rent. Sweater shit has got me mad stressed. I inherited my dad's debt, never got to hear his last breath. And the only reason I ain't passed yet, I'm the first ever and the last left.
I let the record show, I let the tech explode. Put on the weapon show, pull up the Texaco, Narcos in Mexico, call up the technical, they know the text I blow. Shots out on Plexico, turn you to vegetable, body electrical, acid and alkaline, body so flexible. The shooters feast like a Uber Eats, got a group of these suited these cooler bees, while letting the Uzi Aruga speak. An American got up in Cuba eats. The powers they seek and powers the weak, they following creeps. Powers that be inherit the world from cowards and sheep. Been to the mountains, top towers and peaks, flowers and sweets and showered our feet. The lightning and thunder, the shower to sleep, shower the D's. This not a verse, this our receipts.
What would I do with my last breath? Would I yell? Would I cry? Would I laugh? Cause I'm glad that I'm past that mess. Till I pass, never felt that blessed. Even bad breath when you living is better than good breath. When you lack flesh, got a glass chest that I cracked and my lost breath hasn't made it back yet. I'm on my last breath, walking the last step. I'm on the last test, final answer and my last guess. Wonder what I gotta pass next. I'm on my last quest, so much harder than my last trek. Mad bless, hope I can outlast death. Grim Reaper got my address, down on my last cent. Cash spent from a check I don't even have yet from my last rent. Sweater shit has got me mad stressed. I inherited my dad's debt, never got to hear his last breath. And the only reason I ain't passed yet, I'm the first ever and the last left.
It's like a track finish. I attract women, they the bad women. I'ma splash in them, leave a bag with them. Then I raise seeds to be mad different. If I die now, I'm coming back in them. Cause they dad missing, but they cash dripping. Cause they royalty, so they brag different. Ain't no ass kissing, never had feelings. Seen a white victim and a black witness. Mac gripping on my last mission. Yak sipping, blowing blackism. Gat missing, he was lack slipping. Smack hit him, now we act different. Apparition, the bad vision. The Mac a chip him, a crash the system. Uncle Tom, cause you that willing. Fuck the law, I'm going back to living. Astral prisms of black religions. Activisms of conversations. Sacrilegious, the palms of Satan. Black magicians, Babylon erasing. Raise our hands to the God we praising. Hustling, the marathon we racing. Nipsey at the finish line, he waiting.
What would I do with my last breath? Would I yell? Would I cry? Would I laugh? Cause I'm glad that I'm past that mess. Till I pass, never felt that blessed. Even bad breath when you living is better than good breath. When you lack flesh, got a glass chest that I cracked and my lost breath hasn't made it back yet. I'm on my last breath, walking the last step. I'm on the last test, final answer and my last guess. Wonder what next.
All right, there you have it. There you have it. Last Breath featuring Cambada, Red Pill and Blue Pill off of that Holy Ghost album, Part 2. Make sure y'all go and get that. Shout out to Black Magic. Shout out to Cambada. Shout out to the family. Peace to you and yours. Welcome to another episode of Melanin Monday, episode number 73. Right? I believe so. We are in the building. We're a little bit late, I have to say, on my end. That's on me. So I'm so knee deep. I'm in too deep. I'm so deep in this in this studying and whatnot that I went over my study time. I was knee deep. This information is these downloads are coming to me so much these days. So I'm finding myself knee deep and somewhat drowning in information. It's a good thing. It's nothing that I won't complain about it, because when you're chasing that story, or when you're going down that rabbit hole, you would be a fool to put restrictions on that, that experience and whatnot. So I welcome it. You know, it's a lot of things going on. It's a lot of things that we'll talk about tonight, but I know that we won't be able to finish the conversation, because time doesn't exist when you're dealing with the truth. You know, we can't put the truth on a time schedule, but we need, it's a lot of stuff to go through. But we're gonna build on some stuff tonight. But before I even let me do this roll call. How rude of me. Let's find out who's in the building. Let me go ahead and go to the top. All right. Who do we have? We got West Phoenix in the building. Macon in the building. Long Island is in the building. Salute to Long Island. El Paso, Texas in the building. Vegas in the building. All right. Providence, Rhode Island in the building. San Francisco's in the building. Peace to the family. Atlanta's in the building. NC is in the building. Cleveland is in the building. Rochester's in the building. Nashville, Tennessee is in the building. London is in the building. DMV is in the building. Oaktown, Town Business. All right. Low Culture TV. That's New York in the building right there. Harlem is in the building. VA is in the building. New Orleans is in the building. 717 is in the building. Jamaica's in the building. College Park is in the building. All right. So we global now, baby. Jersey's in the building. B-More's in the building. Saturn is in the building. Yes. Salute to Saturn. Empress B44 is in the building. Detroit is in the building. 419 is in the building. Hyattsville, Maryland is in the building. Boston is in the building. Pittsburgh is in the building. Mars is in the building. Indianapolis is in the building. Yeah, worldwide up in this bit. Riverside, California is in the building. OKC is in the building. Houston is in the building. Tucson is in the building. Nassau County is in the building. Ogun is in the building. I'm talking about. All right, let's get right into it. We all in the building. Take your seats. We're going to take a smoke break somewhat in between this conversation that we're going to have tonight. You know what I'm talking about? We'll take a little smoke break. But for now, we're going to go right into this. This. Y'all waited. We've been waiting all day. I wanted to go live this morning. I had so much to talk about. But okay, the last time we linked up was on the Lions Gate. If my memory serves me correct, the last time we caught up was on 8-8, collectively. Now we're here today, and so much has happened ever since the Lionsgate portal. So what we're gonna do real quick is do a little review on what was exactly the Lionsgate and what was going on that day specifically. And for the family who may not be familiar with what I'm talking about, I'm speaking of August 8th, 2019, which was on Thursday. That was a day, that was a portal, that was an alignment. That's a perfect alignment day right there, when the sun, Sirius B, and the three pyramids on Giza are completely in alignment. Okay, that's the day when Sirius, that day commemorates the rising of Sirius at its the highest peak and whatnot. So the Lions Gate was a portal where a lot of things were ritualized, and where a lot of things actually came through. Came through that portal, was energized, on that on the day of that portal. So we have to examine what news reports or what was interjected into the news cycle on the day of a very powerful portal alignment, right? Because not only do we know about this information, but the people who we are talking to you about on a consistent basis, the ones who we're building the narrative on, these people also take advantage of these stargates. They also take advantage of these alignments. They also take advantage of these basic, cosmological, once in a lifetime opportunities to do things, to enact, right? Because what these people are doing is they're enacting their will. They are going ahead and they're doing blood sacrifices. They're going ahead and they're shedding, they're feeding they're feeding their deities. They're feeding their, their whatchamacallit, their gods. The same concept that you could conceive of when you think about feeding your gods and giving them something, a sacrifice, in order to get things popping for you and yours, or your tribe, or your team, or your crew, or whatever. There's also people on this planet who have the option of doing that, but they're feeding a whole nother god, a god that you may be unfamiliar with, that you may never want to meet this god. You may never have, you may not be qualified to meet this God based off of your frequencies and based off of what it is that you do and what it is that you don't do. But if you ever find yourself, participating in a form of pedophilia, where you're raping and you're taking advantage of babies, not little children, babies. If you find yourself ever in such a lower frequency that you're participating in cannibalism of, not just you ate something at McDonald's or whatever and it had human burgers in it and you did not know, so you can't be no, not that blindly eating human meat like most of us probably already have. I heard it tastes like chicken, but I mean knowingly, killing someone like you would kill game and cooking that person and eating that person. If you find yourself in that situation, then you would qualify to probably meet their God. You may be qualified to be a part of the religion that these people participate in. Okay? So these people are being exposed in a way that I call perfect alignment with the times and what things like stargates, like the Lion's Gate, represent. So let me go over the Lion's Gate, which was on 888. All right, let's just go through the Lion's Gate real quick. Okay, since ancient time, the star Sirius has been known as the spiritual sun. So the spiritual sun, keep that in mind. Not the physical sun that keeps you warm, that gives you a tan, that comes out in the summer and things. No, Sirius being as the brightest star in the sky next to the sun, that being the spiritual sun. Not the sun that shines bright, that gives life, but the sun that is life. Spiritual sun. Okay? As the second brightest star in the sky, the first is our sun. Sirius emits an energy that is hugely activating for us. So it emits an activating energy, a principle. If you would ever wanted to do something as a grand ritual collectively, or even putting something in a news cycle, or even marking that day with an event that involves, that gets the attention of the world. Let's just say that, right? You would want to do it that you would want to put it into that spiritual alignment that day, because that is that's a once in a lifetime lick right there. So let's continue. Sirius emits an energy that is hugely activating for us. Its light works to spur on the awakening process. It pushes further into higher consciousness and towards ascension. In truth, Sirius is working away on us all the time, but each year during the peak of the summer, Sirius moves closer to Earth. From the end of July, the spiritual sun slowly comes into alignment with our sun, Earth, and Orion's belt. And on August the 8th, the energetic effect on us peaks. This is where the power comes from that makes 8-8 so significant. It's all from Sirius. Sirius, I'm Sirius, B, right? Sirius, the star constellations that our Kemetic ancestors always spoke of, that they couldn't wait to get back home to Sirius. Niggas be talking about Georgia. No, our ancestors was like, Sirius, I can't wait to get home. The Dogons, Sirius. The Olmecs, Sirius. Even in Central America, they were pointing to the dog star. Understand that. So let me continue. On August 8th, as Sirius rises in the sky, it lines up perfectly with Orion's belt, also known as the Three Sisters or the Three Kings. Remember the movie The Three Kings that takes place in Iraq, with Cube in it, with Ice Cube. Make sure if you have that movie, you don't let that's a collector's item right there. On August 8th, as Sirius rises in the sky, it lines up perfectly with Orion's belt. That compromises three bright stars which sit in the constellation of Orion. Here's the amazing part. Those three stars of Orion's belt line up perfectly with three of the Pyramid of Giza. Then on 8-8, Sirius aligns with the Great Pyramid. Now all four stars align with the pyramids. Lucky coincidence? Who are you kidding? A little exploration into the divine myths of Egyptology reveals that Orion is equated to the Egyptian god Osiris, who's Osar, and Sirius to the goddess Isis, who's Osset. So it's the divine feminine. It's Mama. It's Osset. It's the throne. You understand? That's that gateway portal. Together, Osiris and Isis were believed to have created the whole of human civilization. So when these two deities align in the skies, it's worth building a pyramid or two in their honor. Now, I'm not going to go too much further on the Stargate, but that day is a very, very powerful day. What did you do on Thursday? I did something that, opened me up to the knowing, right? And the knowing is this, that you walk through life thinking about the fact that, you are one with the universe, or you are a spiritual being having a human existence. But inside of this flesh suit, or inside of this space suit, exists a light, a energy. This not like the lights that we have in our room, that not Con Edison lights. I'm talking about a power that's undescribable. And on 8-8-8, I was able to tap into that power by utilizing toad medicine, which is also known as Bufu. Okay, and that shit put me in touch. It put my spirit body, my energy body, my electric body. It plugged me in to all of the power all around me. And I promise you, I've never felt like God until that day. You understand? Now I know. It's not about thinking it anymore. Now I'm in the know. I'm part of the gnosis. I'm a Gnostic. I'm agnostic. I can speak from it from experience now because I overcame any fear that I had, and I overcame any obstacles that I had, and I put myself in the midst of my journey, and I went ahead and I jumped through the portal. I did not let that gate close on me. I went ahead and I tapped in because I wanted to speak to God, and I saw God. You understand? It's not a person. It don't look like Chris Rock. It's a feeling. It's a force. You know, it's a knowing. It's a knowing that you are part of what is known as the omnipotent, omnipresent, the all. You are part of the all, and but you are the I am, but you are part of the all. You understand? And that concept is not hard. It's harder to explain and easier to experience. Put it like that. So it's people who talk about mountain climbing, and it's motherfuckers that be on mountains. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm here to let you know that if you leave the flesh, you have nothing to ever worry about. Don't live in a fear state. Don't think that our loved ones who are now ancestors, you know, always know that they tap right back into the source in which they came from. You know what I'm saying? And it's orgasmic. There's nothing, you will never cry about anything. It is once you feel yourself tapping in, you're gonna smile like a baby. I was smiling like a baby. I was smiling like newborn smile when they come to this planet. And when you observe your child when they're dreaming or when they're laying down and they have this smile on his face and they're just in internal bliss, no worries, nothing. That's how that shit had me. Real talk. But the minute ego kicked in, because the phone went off, talk about those devices and whatnot. The phone went off. The Matrix shit, you know what I mean? Brought me back into the Matrix. I was in Zion. The fucking phone went off. I'm like, damn. And I felt my ego coming back in. So the ego is like a helmet. It's covering, it's the veils that's covering everything, you know? But man, know thyself. I'm giving you the real, and I'm telling you what it really. I'm not encouraging nobody to do nothing, but I'm letting you know. Look, it went. That portal right there. That shit was real. So, and let me share something with my sufferers out there, right? Because I promise you, every day or every session that we have or every time that we link up, I could guarantee you, as much as I say, yo, I wish the family is in best health, physical, spiritual, mental, financial, and whatnot, there's somebody out there that's fucking hurting. There's somebody out there that's going through some shit. There's somebody out there that's dealing with something. You could be dealing with a toothache. You could be dealing with a heartache. You you could be dealing with some anxiety. You could be dealing with everybody's going through something. Everybody's nursing some kind of wound. Everybody is facing a challenge or fucking two. I'm not, that shit doesn't go like there's times when we doing this shit and I'm going through everything, but you'll never know that. You know what I'm talking about? You'll never know that because whatever we go through it. When we link up and when we get together, it's therapeutic. It should be that. You know what I mean? It should be healing. It should be therapeutic. It should get us to a place where we're saying to ourselves, you know what? I'm better. I feel better about everything after I tapped in. My frequency is on another level. You know what I'm talking about? Um, the more that you know about something, the more that something is revealed to you, the more that something is peeled back, and the more layers that you see removed from something that may be perplexing you, is the lighter that it gets. And it takes a weight off of your shoulders and it opens up your eyes wider to your eyes were wide shut, but now it opens up your eyes wider to a reality and to a perception of a world that you may necessarily be aware of in order to fully understand. Man, know thyself. To understand this world in which we exist in, sometimes we have to shed the illusion. The illusion just so happened to be that these pink people that you had all around you and whatnot, these Neanderthals, these whatever you may call them, these people who are not like you. You know what I'm saying? These very these mankind like people that be around humans a lot. That these people, their ways and a lot of the things that they're into and their culture and the things that they have brought to the worldwide table, not just to the block, to the worldwide table, to global culture. You know what I'm saying? Ever since they basically, uh, came into what is called the New World in 1492, 1493, with a lot of blood on their hands. You know what I'm saying? And they've been wreaking havoc ever since. So we're talking, we're speaking into existence, the fact that this needs to be understood. We need to have a better understanding about what's going on all around us because it seems like they're ramping it up on a daily basis. Their attack or their spell rather or their quote unquote war is in full fucking swing, and it involves your mind and your heart. They could care less about the body. You have to understand and understand what perpetual warfare is and how it's fought and how it's carried out and what's the quiet weapons for silence war. What's the protocol behind that, and is it going down in front of you? Is there a war? Is the media at war with the citizens? Is the quote unquote media, is the controlled media at war with its citizens, where they're blatantly lying to you with in your face, where they're not keeping it 100, where they're not keeping it, they're not telling you what's really going on. They're not being honest with you. You know what I'm talking about? They're not tying in the narratives. They're not really telling you who's connected to who. Nobody is doing reporting. They're all reading from a Associated Press, uh, you know, um, statement. And if you look at all of the new, let's just say the Epstein murder or the Epstein suicide. If you listen to all of the news reports from all of the different stations, just pay attention that they're all reading from the same script. Nobody is going far with it. Nobody is telling you how far this thing reaches. Nobody is bringing in the spiritual implications on why that man will wind up dead exactly right after the Lion's Gate. Exactly right after the Lion's Gate. Nobody brought up the fact of the spiritual implications of why they would put out the report on a black identity extremist being public enemy number one on 888 on the Lions Gate. They brought that story right back into the eyes of the public, and they put that shit out on the portal. You understand? They declared straight up. You talk about might is right. You talk about crusades. You talk about white terrorism. You talk about whatever, everything that we've been talking about up until this point on 888 through the Young Turks. There's a YouTube channel called the Young Turks. That's a news agency. How convenient of some fucking Turks, right? And they leaked a memo. Okay, let me pull it up. They leaked a memo on 888, and you got to understand what leaks are. Leaks are basically like press releases, you know. So leaks are coordinated, right? It's almost like everybody knows. It's not like it catches anyone off a surprise. These are coordinated news stories, okay? So the leak came out, and then it got spread through all of the controlled media. It's people like, I ain't hear about that shit. Yeah, my dude, you're not part of that cycle. But all of the Europeans who are part of their standing army got the damn memo. You didn't get the memo and you laughing it off. Oh, Red, we know that. That ain't no news. We know that they don't like us, Red. You know they won't let Tyreek in the UK. We know that we hot, man. We know that they can't take this information, bro. You know what I'm talking about? Come on, Red. Stop that, man. Tell us something we don't know. Nigga, you don't know what a fucking ritual is. Obviously. You might not know the implications on how they do their thing. I'm giving you I'm giving you the heads up on how they fight their wars and how they play chess. That's all I'm saying. And what I'm saying is that shit that they just did on a portal day by putting out, I'm gonna read the report to you. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. And you know, the community, unfortunately, we not on that. It's so apparent that everybody's on different pages now. And it wasn't report nobody no like we didn't get our spiritualists and other people to really go in, be like, yo, you know, like Bobby would have went in on that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I wonder if Phil touched on it because I know he did a live stream. So this is what came out that day. This is on 8/8, right? That's Newsweek. I'm gonna show you all of the news on how all of them ran the story. FBI ranks black identity extremists bigger threat than Al Qaeda, white supremacists. Okay, let me just take you to another one. FBI ranking black identity extremists as bigger threat than white supremacists ignores the real problem. Okay. This week, leaked documents obtained by the Young Turks revealed that black identity extremists are now considered to be among the agency's top counterterrorism priorities during this current administration. The 2018-19 threat guidance documents describes black identity extremists, BIEs, as those who use force or violence in violation of criminal law in response to perceived racism and injustice in American society. The brief also cites that some BIEs acted in hopes of establishing a separate black homeland or autonomous black social institutions, communities, or governing organizations within the USA. One section even goes as far as to call the groups racist, explaining that they are likely to target civilian and government entities that are perceived as oppressors, including but not limited to law enforcement groups, law enforcement officers, the U.S. government, members of rival BSC, black supremacist extremists. Look, members of rival BSE, black supremacist extremist groups, and individuals based on race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and religion. So this is how it works. This is the translation. This is how you reinterpret what it is that they're writing in their language. Because remember, this is lawful language. This is legalese. This is wide. This is generalizing open source language that could be reinterpreted through Latin and through their legalese to mean anything that they want it to mean. It stretches so far. But They're likely to target civilian and government entities that are perceived as oppressors, including but not limited to law enforcement officers, the U.S. government, member. All right, so that right there, that could mean if somebody put together some paperwork, and that paperwork is an instrument of war in their eyes, and they target civilians or they target government entities when they say the USA is a corporate structure, and all of these corporations that you're going to sue, the ADOS with the suing of, corporate entities and whatnot. That could be perceived as a act of war. That could be perceived as a terrorist, or that could be perceived as an extremist act. Okay. Members of rival BSE, Black Supremacist Extremists. Now, the first person to pop up on Fox News, right? The first person to pop up on Fox News in 2000 and I believe it was 14 or 15 was King Noble. Okay? It was King Noble was being profiled by Bill O'Reilly and Fox News, right? This is the propaganda engine. This is the war machine. Fox News is the war machine. When they get on you, when they talk about you, and when they put you in their crosshairs, people die. When you know what I mean? What they did to the Arabian world or to the Arab world, Fox News as the war machine that drummed up all of those soldiers and continues to breathe fire into the furnace of of that empire. So they had a profile of King Noble, and they were highlighting him identifying as a black supremacist. They were focusing on that. This was all the way in 2015. This is the beginning of the counter, or this is the beginning. This is not really the beginning of that invasion, but it's almost like the Matrix. I always use Matrix references. It's the first time that the Sentinels were coming through the roof. It's the invasion of Zion. That's the beginning of that drilling process. Is when they put a highlight on him. I stepped back and I was like, uh-oh, y'all better watch out because they coming. You understand? But you got to understand that they come with the pen first. The pen is mightier than the sword. If you don't know how this thing is laid out, and if you don't know how certain things are enacted, then you may need to do more research. But it all goes on paper first. It all gets enacted on paper. It's ritualized by being put in a white paper or put out they leak these documents to put them into the public so everybody could see it, so everybody could basically download it, so everybody could, you know, put it in their frontal lobes, the collective, and then react to it. They expect a reaction. They expect people to, raise a funk about it, to, be on defense about it. But overall, you know, these, this is all ritual. This is all ritual. You know what I'm saying? So here it goes. So members of rival BSC supremacist extreme groups. That's niggas on YouTube beefing. That's the conscious people. That's the groups going back and forth. You know what I'm saying? That's somebody, one of the teachers having a falling out with another teacher and then taking it to social media and being like, yo, I'm gonna kill these niggas. I'm gonna kill you, nigga. You know what I mean? Like completely going, to the left. That's that. And individuals based on race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and religion. So that's basically the Hebrew Israelites, when they're banging on people because of their sexual orientation. That's a few teachers in our community that bang on the Romanistic culture and whatnot. There's people who are banging on religion. There's people who are throwing religion away. They're saying that you could be considered to be an extremist. And in the very same project, just to show you what's going on right now, in the very next breath, this woefully erroneous piece of FBI analysis then goes on to wrongly project that there would be attrition and decline in membership within white supremacist and nationalist extremist movements in years to come. Okay? So the White House didn't mention white supremacists in its major counter-terrorism report. Okay? So these same people who are terrorizing America and have the blood of almost thousands on their hands, because them numbers add up, right? They're always going to find a way to deflect. They're always going to find a way to show you that no, nigga, regardless of anything that we're doing, we're actually doing these things to stay in the power and to stay, to keep your people in an oppressive state. So how you going to ask us to police us when we're doing it we're feeding our gods? All of them feed the same God. You got to understand that part. That's why they all party together. Party next door, baby. That's why they all party together. That's why they all hang together. That's why they're a part of a collective. That collective has been feeding these gods ever since World War II, World War One, and even before that. But you cannot ask the same people to police themselves who are basically all in together on the same thing. Let's read this about the Trump about the administration, as if you didn't know, but it's always good to put things on record. So as reporters, we're reporting right now, and we're just showing it. We're showing the receipts of what's going on in in this theater of war, because this is war. This is the theater of war. Okay. The recent mass shooting in El Paso, Texas, has ushered in a new wave of scrutiny into how Donald Trump's presidency has seemingly emboldened white supremacists to commit acts of domestic terrorism. As the alleged Texas shooters manifesto echoed the president's own rhetoric. In both clear language and in code, this president has fanned the flames of white supremacy in this nation, former Vice President and 2020 frontrunner Joe Biden said on Wednesday, while fellow candidate and former Congressman Beto O'Rourke went one step further, labeling the president a white supremacist himself. He is a white supremacist, O'Rourke said Wednesday. He also made that very clear. He's dehumanized or sought to dehumanize those who do not look like or pray like the majority here in this country. So it doesn't exactly come as a surprise to learn that when it comes to the federal government's own effort to combat domestic terrorism, the White House has reportedly been pretty reluctant to give the matter the attention it deserves. CNN reports that the Trump-led White House rebuffed the Department of Homeland Security's efforts to highlight domestic terrorism in the government's national counterterrorism strategy, which would have specifically spelled out the domestic terror threat as being a major counterterrorism priority. Sources told CNN that the White House wanted to focus only on the jihadist threat while ignoring the rising threat of domestic terrorism, including by white supremacists in the report, which was released last fall. They had major ideological blinders on, said one senior source close to the Trump administration. After a year-long battle between the White House and the Department of Homeland Security, the report ultimately included one paragraph on domestic terrorism, which briefly acknowledged its rise and mentions other forms of violent extremism, such as racially motivated extremism, animal rights extremism, environmental extremism, sovereign citizen extremism, and militia extremism, but crucially, not white supremacy. DHS sources told CNN that the White House also refused to let the report include a statement acknowledging that there would be a subsequent domestic terrorism strategy. This administration's national strategy for counterterrorism was the first to ever include domestic terrorism. This issue continues to be a priority for this administration, and the National Security Council has launched an interagency process focused on combating domestic terrorism in support of the president's counterterrorism strategy. Okay? So, as you can see, you know, these people are definitely not interested in stopping anything from happening to you or yours. They're not interested in solving any of the cases that you see popping up of mass murders. They don't want to tie in one and two, right? They're not interested in tying up the loose ends to show you that there's a network of sleeper cells that have been activated and are out here catching catching bodies amongst so many other things. They don't want to admit that that behavior that their own are showing the world, especially the European, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant uh, in America, or the American psycho. This is something that they've been doing since they got here. Mass murders, mass shootings, massacres, things of that nature. It's in their blood. Okay, might is right. It's in their blood. These are Vikings. These are Nords. These are the Austrians. You know what I mean? These are the Germanic tribes. These are the Sicilians. These are the Venetians. You know what I'm talking about? These are the Sicilians. These are the Italian mafia. Who have a nigga gripe, who have a mooly gripe. This is them doing the work. This is them flooding. This is Operation Underground. This is them flooding the hood with heroin, with all immunity from the CIA and the government because they were in bed ever since the Operation Underground. Ever since World War II, the Italian mafia has become they become an asset of the U.S. government. They're an operative. They were in bed with the FBI. They were directly in bed. The Jewish mafia directly in bed with J. Edgar Hoover. You understand? Directly in bed with J. Edgar Hoover. Whoever's seen the series Boardwalk Empire, you will begin to see how that was explored. But it's way deeper than that. They just scratched the surface. And also in Boardwalk Empire, they showed you how the federal government operates when it comes to our people, and they've been doing it ever since the 20s. This is a 100-year dynasty. So during the age of the mafia, and also during the age of the KKK, when they were in their white terrorism bag back in the 20s and whatnot, post World War I, what happened? J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI shined a light on the black identity extremists of those days, and that was Marcus Garvey and all of the movements that were coming up in his day and age. He directly went after Marcus Garvey with all of the force of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He did the biddings, and he ignored the mafia. He ignored prohibition. He ignored Capone. He ignored prostitution. He ignored all of the murders. He ignored all of the tentacles of the American Sicilian mafia network that also was in bed with the Jewish mafia syndicate network, and they were allowed to flourish. They were allowed to tap into big business. Thus, they were allowed to tap into big government, and they have been incorporated in what do you know as big government to this day. They've been incorporated into big business, Fortune 500, Wall Street, you name it. It's intertwined with gangsters. It's called a deep state. So the deep state is the part of the government that we know as the red, white, and blue United States of America voted officials that, you know what I mean, hug babies and take pictures and whatnot. Well, the darker side of the government involves operatives from the underworld, operatives from the cartels, and operatives from a mafia and a Jewish mafia, Mossad uh, corporate run government, rogue government that are way more powerful than the wooden soldiers of your elected officials who are basically all just fronts. Most of them are fronts if they're not part of that whole movement right there. It's called a rat line. And that rat line, ladies and gentlemen, involve what is known as child sex, prostitution, pedophile rings, more rings than Saturn. And these rings are supplied by these mafia underworld figures. Now, what these underworld mafia figures were able to do for them to rise in power in the 1920s during Prohibition, okay? During Prohibition, you had Jewish mafia, okay, rise up in power. And then you also had the Italian mafia rising up in power based off of their liquor operations, based off of their bootlegging operations. Now, these bootlegging operations were able to garner them political power. The political power that they were able to garner, they leveraged that political power into what is known as blackmail. Blackmail that we're talking about involved catching senators, judges, and other people in high government in compromising positions with prostitutes. And then to take it even further, they were able to capture a lot of these officials and whatnot, and a lot of these power players in compromising positions with children, young children, pedophilia. Okay, and to make things even worse, they were even able to blackmail many of these powerful politicians, going all the way up to J. Edgar Hoover, because J. Edgar Hoover was being blackmailed by the American mafia because J. Edgar Hoover's nickname was Mary, and J. Edgar Hoover used to be at parties at the park, the what was that, the park, the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, in drag with representatives from the Brofman family, who is the conglomerates behind Seagram's Gin, who is the conglomerate behind they own damn near half of the music industry. You know what I'm talking about? His father, the Brofman's father, was affiliated with the mafia, and he was also affiliated with high level government. And back in the days, they all partied together. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? They all partied together, like what's being revealed to you in the Epstein case, like what was revealed in the dumping of all of the deposition that came out the day before Epstein, you know, was either killed or wheeled out of the Manhattan Detention Center. And they switched him up, and he's in Israel right now. We're going to talk about that because this possibility is on the table. We're not going to just, I'm not going for just one excuse from the media. Real talk. You think so? All right. So the blackmail that the mafia was getting away with and got them into power, because this whole thing is run on blackmail, extortion, and people having dirt on the next man to force you to do something. Okay? That's how politics works. That's how the power plays work. That's how this quote unquote game. This shit is a game, and that's how it works. And that's how people in the underworld keep leverage over people in government and politics and in other places, because they all are part of a similar circle. At the highest levels, though, at the highest levels, I'm talking about top level mafia, top level Russian mafia, top level Jewish mafia. They sitting with Hollywood execs. Hollywood execs are sitting with Pentagon and CIA. CIA sits with everybody. You understand? CIA sits with everybody. They sit with the cartels, they sit with the motherfucking jihadists, they sit with the Al Qaedas, they sit with the ISIS, they sit with the goddamn Sandinistas, they sit with everybody. You understand? And they are the mafia inspired. They are the part of the mafia who basically was, they married into government. you know they married into government. They were basically absorbed into government in the 60s and the 70s, even when they did what they, because Operation Underworld was the mafia working with the US government during World War II to help defeat fascism in Italy and Mussolini and other factions and whatnot. As a result of them working together, as a result of them being, of seeing the importance in each other, the mafia was able. They had diplomatic immunity in America, and as a result of that diplomatic immunity, by the time they broke them down in the 80s, they were already intertwined in higher levels of government, law, and many industries, many different industries. And let's not talk about Meyer Lansky. Let's not talk about the fact that the Italian mafia was in bed with the Jewish mafia, which was in bed with Israel before Israel becomes a state, before Israel, in the smuggling of weapons for Israel paramilitary troops in the beginning of them taking Israel from the Palestinians. The Italian mafia was in bed with them, with the Zionists. So when the Zionists get in power, when the Zionists begin to do what they do, when the Zionists begin to take over, when the Zionists extends their reach into all corners of power, who do you think benefits off of that? Okay? Who do you think benefits off of that? You got to understand who Jeff Epstein is, and you got to understand what he means to Israel. You got to understand how much of a hero he is for Israel. You got to understand how much he's an operative. There's so much stuff that you have to really understand when it comes to this case right here. This case is going to take a lot of time to unpack because it has multiple dimensions to it. So if you can understand the blackmailing that the mafia had J. Edgar Hoover under, then you can understand the blackmail that Epstein had on goddamn every single pervert and every single pedophile and every single every single motherfucking trick in Washington D.C., Wall Street, Hollywood, Tel Aviv, and many different other places, because that Lolita Express was moving around. I read the deposition front to back. I read it page for page. It's 300 something pages, and I read every single page of it. There's no speculation once you read a deposition. That's the ultimate receipts. They're coming with everything. So if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, there was documents that were released about the Jeff Epstein. There was a lawsuit involving one of the victims of his sexual trafficking ring, and she had a deposition. And in that deposition, they unsealed it the other day, the day before he quote unquote died and whatnot. And that deposition is the receipts, my nigga. Like, they call it a deposition, but in the Urban Dictionary, nigga, that's your receipts. They can't wiggle out of that. If she says somebody had sex with her, well, goddamn it, I'm believing that. You know, she was blowing. Yo, there was so much shit mentioned in that deposition, bro. I understand why they had to either get rid of him or get that nigga up out of here. You know what I mean? They had to bury that story. Regardless of what happened, the fact that he had to be dead in the eyes of society, he had to die, whether it's real, whether he really got killed, or or they really knocked him off, or that nigga's in Israel in an underground bunker, the Dumbo, or he's in one of these underground bunkers or somewhere where, you know, because he's in you niggas don't be in Israel. You ain't going to Israel. He's somewhere tucked away in Israel in one of them caves that are like a fucking Waldorf Astoria. You know what I mean? Surrounding himself with a whole bunch of, you know, young women who they offer up for sacrifice. You know, but regardless of what's went down, he had to die so this story can die. You understand? Because the story it has so many tentacles. Wexner, the mega group. You know what I'm talking about? Go and research the mega group. Go and research Wexner. Go and research the lady Maxwell, his girlfriend, who was basically the Baroness in his Cobra Commander outfit. She was the Uma Thurman of the operation. You know what I mean? She was the one making moves. Her father is a major player in both Israel and a major player in government in America. Major player. So none of this shit, and she's been missing ever since he got arrested. She knows a lot. Yeah, the Jason group. Go and research the Jason group. The ones who cooked during the Jason months. Robert Maxwell is the man that I'm speaking of. That's the father. Robert Maxwell is a power player from the Reagan administration. But going back before the Reagan administration, and his daughter is the girlfriend of Jeff Epstein, who was basically, she was the madam. She was the one who was running all of these little girls, all of these babies and whatnot, you know, through the rat line. So the same way that the mafia the same way that the federal government was ignoring the organized crime of that day, they're ignoring the organized crimes of today, and they're still using our people who they have a natural fear of, who they have a natural gripe with, who they have a natural aversion to, only because of the dualistic nature of, you know, the races. You know what I'm talking about? Only because of what they noted, what they done to our people. Only because of the fact that the terrorism is continuing to this day. And there's people amongst us who are brave enough and who have the audacity to point it out because it's so obvious, because we live in a day and time in this post Lionsgate reality where the veils have that you were promised that the veils would be lifted. This case alone and everything that's gonna come out, it already came out. Like, I got tons of information already. Like, what's already come out. They didn't even release all of the documents, but what's already out, it's already enough. We could go to trial right now, my nigga. Let's go. You know what I'm talking about? Where's Perry Mason? Cause I'm ready to go, nigga. I'm ready to get my Cochran on. We could convict them on all charges right now. So that's the purpose of cooking right now. That's the purpose of being in the fucking kitchen, is to cook these niggas during this portal, during this gate. You know what I mean? During this time when the gates are open, during this alignment. They cooking they self. They cooking they self. This whole, like, let me see something. Okay. His girlfriend's name is Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay. So Ghislaine Maxwell is the daughter of Robert Maxwell. Okay. And these are all Mossad. So Ghislaine was the favorite and youngest daughter of media mogul Robert Maxwell. I'm sorry. Her father is a media mogul, right? So your daughter, the daughter of a media mogul. This is some Baroness G.I. Joe shit. The daughter of a media mogul is implicated as being a madam in a global child pedophilia sex trafficking ring. We ain't talking no regular shit. We're talking federal crime here. You're trafficking box. You know what I mean? And it's underage. You know what I'm talking about? Talk black to me. You trafficking box around the world on the Lolita Express. Nigga, they got the flight log. There's flight logs where the young 17-year-old girl will fly to the Virgin Islands. She'll be there for 3 days. Then in the flight log, they'll fly her to New York because he had the penthouse in New York. She'll be there for 3 days. Then they'll fly her back to Palm Beach. Bro, she's like, yo, in the deposition, she's like, yo, I'm smashing 4 times a day on these trips. She like, yo, I'm getting lined up with princes. Nigga. She like, yo, they lining me up with royalty to top them off. You princes and you know, all of these old wrinkled motherfucking pedophiles. Okay? Let's read about the Maxwells. Let's read about the Maxwells real quick. The Maxwell family has become a source of renewed media interest following Jeff Epstein's arrest, as Ghislaine Maxwell, long described in the media as a British socialite, was publicly cited as Epstein's longtime on and off girlfriend. And Epstein's victims, as well as former wives of Epstein's friends, have claimed that she was Epstein's pimp and procured underage girls for his sexual blackmail operation. Ghislaine Maxwell is also alleged to have engaged in a rape of the girls she procured for Epstein and to have used them to produce child pornography. Ghislaine was the favorite and youngest daughter of media mogul Robert Maxwell. Maxwell, born Jan Ludwig Hock, right, had joined the British Army in World War II. Afterwards, according to authors John Loftus and Mark Ahrens, he greatly influenced the Czechoslovakian government's decision to disarm Zionist paramilitaries during the 1948 war that resulted in Israel's creation as a state. And Maxwell himself was also involved in the smuggling of aircraft parts to Israel. So do you just hear what he's a part he goes down in history as being a benefactor into the creation of the state known today as Israel. So that's how important he is. Okay? He greatly influenced the Czechoslovakian government's decision to arm Zionist paramilitaries during the 1948 war that resulted in Israel's creation as a state. And Maxwell himself was also involved in the smuggling of aircraft parts to Israel. Around this time, Maxwell was approached by British intelligence outfit MI6 MI6 and offered a position that Maxwell ultimately declined. MI6 then classified him as Zionist, loyal only to Israel, and made him a person of interest. He later became an agent of the Mossad, according to several books, including Seymour Hersh's The Samson Option, Israel's Nuclear Arsenal and Americans' Foreign Policy, and Robert Maxwell, Israel's Super Spy, by Gordon Thomas and Martin Dillon. So they said he was Israel's super spy, okay? This is what they're saying about him. According to Viktor Ostrovsky, a former Mossad case officer, Mossad was financing many of his operations in Europe from money stolen from Maxwell's newspaper pension fund. They got their hands on the funds almost as soon as Maxwell made the purchase of the Mirror newspaper group with money lent to him by Mossad. So you see how that works? You buy a they give you the funding, you go and buy a company, and then these black ops or these deep state operatives or these quote unquote, these rogue state governments, they'll jump in that money and invest it in that work. They use that to buy birds, they use it to buy guns, they use it to buy all kind of things. But that's how that black op, that's how that you know, that's how that deep state shit works. In exchange for his services, the Mossad helped Maxwell satisfy his sexual appetite during his visits to Israel, providing him with prostitutes. The service maintained for blackmail purposes. It was later revealed that the hotel in which he stayed in Israel was bugged with cameras, allowing the Mossad to acquire a small library of video footage of Maxwell in sexually compromising positions. As with the CIA, the Mossad's use of blackmail against both friend and foe is well documented and known to be extensive. That is who Jeff Epstein is. Okay? He learned from, let me continue. Maxwell was also a close associate and friend of Israeli super spy Rafi Eitan, who, as previously mentioned, was Jonathan Pollard's handler and who had previously worked directly with Meyer Lansky. Eaton had learned of a revolutionary new software being used by the U.S. government known as Promise from Earl Bryan, a longtime associate and aide to Ronald Reagan. Promise is often considered the forerunner to the PRISM software used by spy agencies today and was developed by William Hamilton, who leased the software to the U.S. government through his company Inslaw in 1982. So the Promise software is a trap. It's a trap. It's called a trapdoor. Okay. So it provided the Mossad with invaluable intelligence on the operations of its enemies and allies, while also providing Eaton and Bryan with copious amounts of cash. So the software that they were able to convince all of these corporate entities and businesses to to download and to use had a trapdoor in it. It was written in the code, and that trapdoor was allowing Israeli intelligence the ability to snoop around and to basically hack and to bug and to get into the computers of their enemies, of their of everybody who they deem to be a threat, and that's everyone who is not them. That's everyone who's not them. It's no one else. Everyone is an op according to them. The CIA was later said to have installed its own trapdoor in the software, but it is unknown if they did so with a version of the already bugged software and how widely it was adopted relative to the version bugged by Israeli intelligence. After the trapdoor was inserted, the problem became selling the bugged version of the software to governments as well as private companies around the world, particularly in areas of interest. Bryan first attempted to buy out Inslaw and Promise and then used the same company to sell the bugged version. Unsuccessfully. No, 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 no. Okay. I'm skipping. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. There's so much information. So this is where he basically got, I guess, his money. So he was known for these lavish yacht parties and whatnot. As he built his business empire and even became a member of parliament, Maxwell was also doing work for Israeli intelligence, as several of the Israeli companies in which he invested became fronts for the Mossad. In addition, as he became a media mogul, he developed a bitter rivalry with Rupert Murdoch, a close friend of Roy Cohn and an influential figure in American and British media. Maxwell also partnered with the Brofman brothers, Edgar and Charles, key figures in the Mega Group. Go and look up the Mega Group. In 1989, Maxwell and Charles Brofman partnered up to bid on the Jerusalem Post newspaper, and the Post described the two men as two of the world's leading Jewish financiers, and their interest in the venture as developing the Jerusalem Post and expanding its influence among world Jewry. A year prior, Maxwell and Brofman had become top shareholders in the Israeli pharmaceutical company Teva. Maxwell also worked with Charles Brofman's brother Edgar in the late 80s to convince the Soviet Union to allow Soviet Jews to immigrate to Israel. Edgar's effort in this regard have received more attention as it was a defining moment of his decades-long presidency of the World Jewish Congress, of which Ronald Lauder is currently president of Estee Lauder. Yet Maxwell had also made considerable use of his contacts in the Soviet government in this effort. Maxwell also moved in the circles of the network previously described in Paris in parts 1 and 2 in this series. A key example of this is the May 1989 party Maxwell hosted on his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, named for his youngest daughter and Epstein's future girlfriend. Attendees of the party included Roy Cohn's protege Donald Trump and his longtime law partner Tom Boland. A close friend of Nancy Reagan was also present, journalist Mike Wallace, as was literary agent Mort Janklow, who represented Ronald Reagan, and two of Cohn's close friends, journalists William Safire and Barbara Walters. The CEO of what would soon become Time Warner, Steve Ross, was also invited to the exclusive event. Ross's presence is notable as he has built his empire largely through his association with New York crime lords Manny Kimmel and Abner Longy Zwillman. Zwillman was a close friend of Meyer Lansky, Michael Steinhardt's father, and Sam Brofman, father of Edgar and Charles Brofman. Another attendee of the Maxwell Yacht Party was former Secretary of the Navy and former Henry Kissinger staffer John Lehman, who would go on to associate with the controversial neoconservative think tank Project for a New American Century. Prior to being Secretary of the Navy, Lehman had been president of the Abington Corporation, which hired arch neocon Richard Pearl to manage the portfolio of Israeli arm dealers Shlomo Zablokowicz and his son Chaim, who paid Ablingen $10,000 a month. Okay. Ghislaine Maxwell was also at this rather notable event. After her father's mysterious death and alleged murder on the same yacht that bears her name in 1991, she quickly packed her bags and moved to New York City. There, she soon made the acquaintance of Jeffrey Epstein, and a few years later developed close ties to the Clinton family, which will be discussed in the next installment of the series. Jeff Epstein and a New Promise. After it was revealed that Epstein had evaded stricter sentencing in 2008 due to his links to intelligence, it was the Mossad ties of Ghislaine Maxwell's father that have led many to speculate that Epstein's sexual blackmail operation was sharing incriminating information with the Mossad. Former CBS executive producer and current journalist of the media outlet Narrative, Zev Shalev, has since claimed that he independently confirmed that Epstein was tied directly to the Mossad. Epstein was a longtime friend of former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who has long-standing and deep ties to Israel's intelligence community. Their decade-long friendship has been the source of recent political attacks targeting Barak, who was running in the Israeli elections against current Prime Minister Netanyahu later this year. Barak, who was also close to Epstein's chief patron and mega group member Leslie Wexner, whose Wexner Foundation gave Barack $2 million in 2004 for a still unspecified research program. According to Barack, he was first introduced to Epstein by former Israeli Prime Minister Shimon Peres, who eulogized Robert Maxwell at his funeral and had decade-long ties with the Brofman family going back to the early 1950s. Perez was also a frequent participant in programs funded by Leslie Wexner in Israel and worked closely with the Mossad for decades. In 2015, few years after Epstein's release from prison, following his conviction for soliciting sex from a minor in 2008, Barak formed a company with Epstein with the chief purpose of investing in an Israeli startup, then known as Reportee. That company, now called Carbine, sells its signature software to 911 call centers and emergency service providers and is also available to consumers as an app that provides emergency services with access to a caller's camera and location and also provides information about emergency services and emergency services providers and also the company is now called Carbine. It sells the six. So he invested in a company that deals with 911 calls, emergency calls. The app gives you access to a caller's camera and location, and it also runs any caller's identity through any linked government database. It has specifically been marketed by the company itself and the Israeli press as a solution to mass shootings in the United States and is already being used by at least two U.S. counties. Israeli media reported that Epstein and Barak were among the company's largest investors. Barak poured, not Barack Obama, all right, for anybody listening, I want to confuse you. This is Barak from Israel, the old prime minister. So Barak poured millions into the company, and it was recently revealed by Haaretz that a significant amount of Barak's total investments in Carbine was funded by Epstein, making him a de facto partner in the company. Barak is now Carbine's chairman. The company's executive team are all former members of different branches of Israeli intelligence, including the elite military intelligence unit, Unit 8200, that is often likened to Israel's equivalent of the U.S. National Security Agency. Carbine's current CEO, Amir Elichai, served in Unit 8200 and tapped former Unit 8200 Commander Pinchas Bukris to serve as the company's director and on its board. In addition to Elichai, another Carbine co-founder, Lital Leshem, also served in Unit 8200 and later worked for Israeli private spy company Black Cube. Leshem now works for a subsidiary of Eric Prince's company, Frontier Services Group, according to the independent media outlet Narrative. The company also includes several tie ins to the Trump administration, including Palantir founder and Trump ally Peter Thiel, an investor in Carbine. Remember, Peter Thiel was the founder of PayPal as well. He's also the man behind Ambrosia, which is the company that is offering to make people younger by infusing them with young people's blood. Okay? That's Peter Thiel. He's an investor in Carbine as well. In addition, Carbine's board of advisors includes former Palantir employees Trey Stevens, who was a member of the Trump transition team, as well as former Secretary of Homeland Security Michael Chertoff. Trump donor and New York real estate developer Elliot Tywell is also on Carbine's board, alongside Ehud Barak and Pinchas Bucharest. Who is Epstein really working for? I'm reading you all of this because, we want to establish a deeper root to the connections that Epstein has, especially in Israeli Mossad, especially in the intelligence community, especially in high levels of government, especially with the blackmailing that he was doing. So the concept of him possibly not even dying, you know, they just wheeled his ass out of his room and he was unconscious and non-responsive and took him to a hospital, and then they performed the autopsy, which they said is non-conclusive, that they got to perform another one. They haven't released a report on it. They said they're going to get rid of the body the next day. So by the time people woke up on Saturday, they said that he tried to kill himself at 6 o'clock in the morning. By the time the noon came, he could have been already in Israel. That's how that shit works. They get you out of your cell early in the morning. By 8 o'clock, they done cut up a corpse that looked like you. They done cut it up, say, yo, we doing an autopsy. They done sliced it open, pulled open, pulled out the organs and whatnot. You know, they're like, yo, we're doing an autopsy. So now that we're doing an autopsy, nobody can come anywhere in the body. You don't have access to the body. There's no identifying of the body, And then after the autopsy, they're cremating him according to the Jewish tradition. He's being cremated. The body's getting burnt. So you'll never know if Bill Barr, the one who runs the jail, the Attorney General for the United States of America, his father, William Barr, was the one who gave Jeff Epstein his first job as a headmaster at Dalton, which is a prep school in New York. So the leader, the one who is in charge of the Justice Department, the one who reports directly to Trump, Bill Barr, who had to recuse himself from anything Epstein related because of the fact that he was in the same law firm that Epstein used in order to get the conviction, damn near thrown out in 2008. So Bill Barr had conflicts of interest already with Epstein. Bill Barr is in control of every single thing in that jail. He could get you pulled out of that jail. He could get those guards who are on overtime to go home early. He could get the cameras turned off. He could get the cameras erased. He could get your ass wheeled out of there. He could tell you to take this pill that's going to slow down your heart, right? This is how this shit works. Take a pill that's going to slow down your heart rate, and then we're going to come in your room and say that you try to hang yourself. We're going to put you in a gurney. We're going to wheel you out of there, right? We're going to take you into a hospital, right? The feds are not there right now. We're going to take you into a hospital. We're going to we're going to try to revive you. And at that point, anything could happen. Anything could happen. Because as they trying to revive your ass, you could get woken up, put into an outfit or whatever, put into something put a mask on you, the same way that they had a video where there was a Brazilian crime lord that was trying to escape. There was a Brazilian crime lord who was trying to escape, and they showed how he tried to dress up as a young girl by putting on a mask, a rubber face mask. So they could put any disguise on him and basically drive him, Uber that nigga right to Teterboro, Uber him to any private airport in New York City, and fly him into Israel, where and Israel has non-extradition laws, and Israel is where he's heralded as a hero and a champion, and Israel has more influence in New York City and in America and in the upper echelons of the quote unquote judicial system and in organized crime more than anybody. So whatever they say goes. It's not the other way around. They'll get your he is intelligence. He is intelligence. He is part of their pecking order. He is one of their operatives with a fetish, and he was running a blackmail operation. Them young girls were being flown. They were having hot girl summers, taking them to Lolita Island, and they were having sexual relations with princes, CEOs, and all kind of people in political power positions, but all of them were being blackmailed, and then they were being extorted, and the blackmail was being leveraged by power players in Israel, power players in the ADL or in these organizations in America, but mostly through powerful Israeli intelligence, namely the Mossad. And sometimes the same thing that happened with Donald Trump with the Russian mafia, where they leaked the pictures of him in uncompromising positions with a prostitute. That's called blackmail. That is how that's how these people play. That's how they play power plays. Power plays. That's how power plays. This is how they do each other. It's like Scandal, I guess. I don't watch that shit, but I'm assuming that that's what they get to. Given that intelligence agencies in both the US and elsewhere often conduct covert operations for the benefit of oligarchs and large corporations as opposed to national security interests, Epstein's ties to the mega group suggests that this group holds a unique status and influence in both the governments of the US and of Israel, as well as in other countries, i.e., Russia, that were not explored in this report. This is by virtue. Okay, let me just show you. Go to this website. I'm reading this. Go dive in. There's no way I was gonna hold information from you guys. Go there. Screenshot that. Okay. Whoever these people are, they do their fucking research. Tell you. This is by virtue of their role as key political donors. I'm talking about the mega group right now, okay? Get into the study the mega group. Everything will begin to tie itself together. It don't have to be a mystery. It's not a mystery. You know what I'm saying? It's not a mystery. We could show. We got receipts. There's a lot of connections taking place. It's a lot of hands in a cookie jar, family. It's a lot of people who wield uncompromising judicial power over people, and these people are, their hands are not clean at all. All right, let's go. Who was Epstein really working for? Even though Jeffrey Epstein appears to have ties to Mossad, this theory reveals that the networks to which Epstein was connected were not Mossad exclusive, as many of the individuals close to Epstein, Leslie Wexner, for instance, were part of a mob-connected class of oligarchs with deep ties to both the U.S. and Israel. Okay? The sharing of intelligence, i.e., blackmail, between intelligence agencies in the same organized crime network connected to the mega group goes back decades, with Leslie Wexner of the mega group as Epstein's chief patron, as opposed to a financier with direct ties to the Mossad. A similar relationship is more than likely in the case of the sexual blackmail operation that Epstein ran. So Wexner is the head of the L brand. We talked about the L brand before on this show, and the L brand is located in Columbus, Ohio. And Wexner is the head of the L brand. The L brand is the clothing brand Express. It's Victoria's Secret. It's a bunch of corporations that you and I are familiar with. Okay, Fortune 500 brands, Fortune 500 corporations. Now, Wexner is the chief patron. He's the one, like you see how I got Patreon? I have some of my patrons are chief patrons. They give up the most money. I have some shout out to all of my cash apps that are coming in. I have I have people who give me cash apps that are my chief patrons, and I pay attention to them because I say to myself, you know what? These people believe in me. These people get first preference. So as Wexner is the chief patron of Epstein, and he's the Wexner gives Epstein his townhouse in New York City, which is considered to be one of the largest residential properties in the whole city, and is 77 million. I think it's $77 million and whatnot. But the head of Victoria's Secret, the one that's in charge of all of the angels with the wings, he's the one in charge of all of these fashion shows, all of these young women, all of these, and it's, all of these models and stuff like that. He's the chief, he's the chief financer, the chief patron of Jeff Epstein, and he gives him his townhouse. When you look at the deed and whatnot, he signed the deed over to him and the title over to him for zero. He's like, yo, you can have that. Live, my nigga. Live. So let me give you some information on the mega group real quick. Let's get familiar with the mega group. The mega group, a secretive group of billionaires to which Lauder belongs. We're talking about the heir to the Estee Lauder Foundation. The mega group was formed in 1991 by Charles Brofman and Leslie Wexner, the latter of whom has received considerable media scrutiny following the July arrest of his former protege, Jeffrey Epstein. Media profiles of the group paint it as a loosely organized club of 20 of the nation's wealthiest and most influential Jewish businessmen, focused on philanthropy and Jewishness, with membership dues up to $30,000 per year. Yet several of its most prominent members have ties to organized crime. Mega group members founded and or are closely associated with some of the most well-known pro-Israel organizations. For instance, members Charles Brofman and Michael Sternhardt formed Birthright Taglit with the backing of then and current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Steinhardt, an atheist, has stated that his motivation in helping to found the group was to advance his own belief that devotion to and faith in the state of Israel should serve as a substitute for Jewish theology. Other well-known groups associated with the mega group include the World Jewish Congress, whose past president Edgar Brofman and current president Ronald Lauder are both mega group members, and B'nai B'rith, particularly its spin-off known as the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, the same ones who have named black organizations to be terror groups. It's the ADL who targets everybody and puts them on a list and makes you a terror target. It's the ADL. The Brofman brothers were major donors to the ADL, with Edgar Brofman serving as the ADL's honorary national vice chair for several years. When Edgar Brofman died in 2013, longtime ADL director Abe Foxman said Edgar was for many years chair of our liquor industry division, chair of our New York appeal, and one of our most significant benefactors. Other mega group members that are donors and major supporters of the ADL include Ronald Lauder, Michael Sternhardt, and the late Max Fisher. As previously mentioned, Roy Cohn's father was a longtime leader of B'nai B'rith's influential New England, New York chapter, and Cohn was later a celebrated member of his banking and finance lodge. In addition, mega group members have also been key players in the pro Israel lobby in the United States. For instance, Max Fisher of the mega group founded the National Jewish Coalition, now known as the Republican Jewish Coalition, the main pro Israel neoconservative political lobbying group, known for its support of hawkish policies and whose current chief patrons, Sheldon Adelson and Bernard Marcus, are among Donald Trump's top donors. Though the mega group has officially existed only since 1991, the use of philanthropy to provide cover for more unscrupulous lobbying or business activities was pioneered decades earlier by Sam Brofman, the father of mega group members Edgar and Charles Brofman. I might be saying it wrong. It's Bronfman, Bronfman. While other North American elites like J.D. Rockefeller had previously used philanthropic giving as a means of laundering their reputations, Brofman's approach to philanthropy was unique because it focused on giving specifically to other members of his own ethno-religious background. Translation: he was putting on for his own people and no one else. It's understood through the mega group that they're ethno-religious, meaning that they're only fucking with their ethnic group and their religious group, no one else. Sam Brofman, as was detailed in part one of this series, had long-standing deep ties to organized crime, specifically Meyer Lansky's organized crime syndicate. Yet, Brofman's private ambition, according those close to him, was to become a respected member of high society. Translation: what is high society? High society is white Anglo-Saxon Protestant society. High society is the blue bloods. High society is why the desire to be a part of high society has fueled the Jews who came out of the ghettos of America, who have aligned themselves to do the bidding of, underworld figures, mafia figures, and criminal, criminal operations in the name of what? In the name of forwarding their purpose, or in the name of being accepted. You know how in Casino, Joe Pesci would do anything to be a made member, to get a button. Well, they'll do anything to be a member of what is known as high society, to be at parties with the pedophiles, to be at parties with J. Edgar Hoover when he's dressed as a woman, to be at a party with Trump and them and Jeff Epstein and them, while they putting girls onto you, or little boys, whatever your preference is, whatever drug that you want. They're in the Hollywood Mountains putting on right now. They're over there at the Waldorf Astoria putting on right now. They're at Mar-a-Lago putting on right now. They're in Tel Aviv putting on right now. So I'm showing you all of this Okay, hold on. Let's just show you some of his criminal background so you know how these people are connected to mafia. So you understand how all of this shit is connected. There's no separation of the two. Sam Brofman, as was detailed in part one of this series, had long-standing deep ties to organized crime, specifically Meyer Lansky's organized crime syndicate. Yet his private ambition was to become a respected member of high society. As a consequence, he worked hard to remove the stain that his mob associations has left on his public reputation in Canada and abroad. He accomplished this by becoming a leader in Canada's Zionist movement, and by the end of the 30s, he was head of the Canadian Jewish Congress and had begun to make a name for himself as a philanthropist, a philanthropist for Jewish causes. Now, does anybody remember in the American Gods lecture how I detailed and I showed you how philanthropy, philanthropical endeavors are ways that people come out of the underworld into the political world by cleaning their hands or their reputation by use of finances. And I showed you how Jay-Z was doing that by becoming a social justice warrior and whatnot, by doing the documentaries, by being the face of the reform and whatnot, by speaking up for those, by he's being philanthropical, he's carrying out philanthropy, he's funding apps and businesses and things of that nature, building up a portfolio that is out of the playbook of what Italian mafia, Jewish mafia, Russian mafia, and other people of the underworld have done throughout the time in America, and it has worked to their advantage, and it's put them in places that that gangsters aspire to be in, and that would be in in the biggest gang, and the biggest gang is the CIA, and the biggest gang is the deep state, and the biggest gang is being able to move around like a diplomat, being able to move around like a sovereign, being able to move around where your right is your might, being able to move around on some John Wick shit, diplomatic immunity, being able to smuggle, being able to run a rat line, being able to tap into all of the underworld markets. Imagine you had access to, you know, um, keys of coke that were going at $100 a pop, and you could fly it around the world without necessarily being stopped. Or you had a route, or you had plugs and whatnot, or you had government organizations who are basically going to walk you through customs, you know, stuff like that going on. There's stuff like that going on. But what is the perception in the media? What are they putting out there in regards to who the bad guy is? Who's being painted with this brush like we're expendables, like we're the scum of the earth, like we have no fucking bearings, no kind of, what we're missing is organization. You know, what we're missing is cooperation. You know what I'm talking about? They have we're seeing organizations. I'm reading you the breakdowns, or I'm reading you you know um, the operations of organized bodies of men and women who are running around doing as they wish, you know doing as they wish, you know and that has a lot to do with organization. You know what I'm talking about? But man like Jay-Z, man like P Diddy, you know what I mean? They're showing you, you niggas isn't you like watching Power and whatnot with Ghost and all of them. You know, they're showing you how people have leveraged. They got blood on their hands. They're part of crime syndicates. They're part of they took chances, penitentiary chances. They've flirted. They've been anti-establishment. But full circle, coming all the way around, they get into philanthropy, and some of them even get into government, politics. You know what I'm saying? That's how, and because it's a fucking thin line. It's a very thin line. Understand me. It is a very thin line. So the mega group is definitely something to look into. You know, uh, a lot. You know, it may when you get into that group and you see the power that they wield, and you see the ties that they got to everybody that's basically out here. You know, doing devilishment, involved in things like pedophilia, things like sex trafficking, things like blackmail. You know, all of these things. All of these things. You're gonna, you know, we got receipts, bro. Like it's just time restraints right now. I could get into about 5 hours worth of shit right now. Like right now, I could peel back so many layers, but we don't have the allotted time to do that. You know, many of you have to get to sleep, and I'm nursing an injury right now, so I gotta kind of get to sleep. And this thing has been really like I'm immersed in this world right now. So I'm in too deep. Like I try to unplug, and it's like, you know, this thing has been pulling me for about a month or two, maybe really like a month. But it's cool, you know what I mean? Because I'm becoming a medium in which the information is coming through. So it's all good. And people are waking up. Like I'm telling you, I get stopped in the streets for this series that we've been doing. Nigga, I get stopped in traffic. Niggas pull up in traffic and tell me, keep burning this flame, keep going. You know what I mean? You know, thanks for opening up their eyes and a lot of things. You know what I mean? It's all good. You know what I mean? Like it's all good. You know that to me that's why we do this thing, so we could all learn and we could basically get our heads out of the cloud. You know what I mean? Like we don't gotta be reactionary. We don't gotta be on defense. It sucks being on defense. You know what I mean? It sucks being reactionary. You know what I'm talking about? It feels better when you're on offense. It feels better when you're shooting in the gym. You know what I'm talking about? And you see your shots land. Nigga, I see my shots land all the time. You know, I know that we shooting in the gym. The gym ain't shooting us. You know what I'm talking about? The gym ain't shooting in us. We out here shooting in the gym. So to speak on things and to bang on things and to expose and to unveil and to tap into things and to unpack shit and those things come up to pass, you know, and that layer gets lifted because now the whole world knows about Jeff Epstein. When we were talking about him, people was like, who? Jeff Goldblum? You know what I'm talking about? Who? Jazzy Jeff? Who you talking about, Red? People wasn't that familiar. They wasn't even interested in hearing the information. But now, Kimosabi, you know, that window is open, so that story needs to be told because that story is something that we are using to demystify, to decode, and to dismantle what they know as white supremacy. Why are we at the top of the list? Those who they identified as the extremists, because this is an intellectual warfare taking place. And intellectual warfare trumps physical warfare. Information. They're afraid of the fact that Negroes waking up in America, the woke movement, the fact that your pineals are getting online, that in it of itself is the most dangerous thing to the matrix that they could perceive. They don't care about nothing else. The fact that you niggas is waking up, the fact that the lights are coming on, the fact that you believing in something higher than what they put in front of you, The fact that we're able to do research like this and blow their asses out of the water, because the more that you expose them, the more power they lose. All right? You shining the sun on the recessives. This is all sun work, nigga. This is light work. You know what I'm talking about? This is light bars. This ain't even bars. Like, we're not even worked up yet. You know what I'm talking about? I've been calm tonight because, like I said, you know. But when you turn the lights on, then you're gonna see it. You're gonna see the forest for the trees. So we're not. We know why they scared of us. Look at the flyer for this. Look at the cover of on the flyer, the thumbnail. We know that they have penis envy. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing told us in the ISIS papers. She explained it so nobody else had to explain it for us. You know what I'm saying? She explained it. White male rage summed up. There you go. The great equalizer. You know what I mean? He got the shit on top of his balls. White male rage summed up. You know what I mean? It's a genetic war. Okay? It's a genetic, it's a lot of genetic shit going on that if you don't do your research, then you won't understand what the fuck is going on. You keep saying racism, and you keep, yeah, Peckerwood. You keep saying racism, and you keep shouting out racism, and that's not necessarily what it is. It's bigger than racism. It's bigger than it's way bigger than racism. You know, it's the Crusades, nigga. It's the Inquisition. You know, it's the beef. It's a beef that they had that stretches all the way into the Dark Ages type shit. Like this is this thing goes way back. This thing goes way back. You know. But notice that in all of these scandals that we're gonna uncover, because I'm doing a documentary. Fuck what you heard. Thank you for everybody for encouraging me. But enough is enough. The documentary is gonna be done. We're gonna do it. The family is gonna fund it. They told me that they got me, and I trust that they got me, and we're going forward with this. And it's gonna be a docu-series. I'm spending 2 and 3 hours on each topic, and I'm tying everything together, and I'm showing you. I'm giving you your ammunition. I'm giving you niggas the clips that you need to clap back. They've been clapping at us for far too long. Niggas is not Luke Cage. They've been picking up them shots. It ain't been bouncing off everybody. They've been clapping back. So we need ammunition. I don't think we got enough ammunition, in our clip. We don't got the extendo and whatnot. So we need to clap back at these people, man. You know what I mean? And let them know that, nigga, you niggas is not gonna try to keep painting us as the bad guy. Y'all not gonna try to make us seem like we the degenerates, or we the violent, you know, bloodthirsty, savages that they are not just painting us to be, but it's basically being carried out. The penalties are being carried out in their courts. The demonization of our people is being carried out in their courts. They're hanging our people on a daily basis. They're giving people death sentences for possession of marijuana. You know what I mean? For simple possessions of marijuana, even with the 50 states damn near legalizing the shit at this point. They still sending people up the river as if they were kingpins and whatnot for like £2. So it's a lot of things going on, and we're just doing our best to help uncover these things. We have a live stream coming up next weekend on the 18th. It's going to be entitled White Supremacy Decoded, because we're going to be able to decode it. We're going to decode it by talking about white inferiority, by talking about white fragility, and giving you the breakdown of what it is, by showing you what it looks like, by giving you the history of, the discovery, the doctrines of discovery in the papal bulls, by showing you the receipts. We will be able to do that. No problemo. Huh. No problemo. That's a done data. Say less. Say less. You know, say less. Okay. Let me see something real quick. I'm going to pull up something, and then after that, we're going to sign off. All right. Into hold on. I think this is it. Y'all all right out there? Shout out to everybody in the building. I appreciate all of y'all, 370 some odd people staying up late with me. We're going to start doing some earlier shows, hopefully, but man, time, I don't know where time is going. You know what I mean? I'm trying to solve this shit by trying to wake up like 4 a.m. so I can have more of a day. But the regular day, the day that we knew, the 24 hours that we was familiar with, nah, my nigga, that shit is gone. That's gone. Yeah. I'll be in better shape on Thursday once I get over this little ailment that I got right now. You know what I mean? I feel like I sprained my neck, so it even hurts to turn my head. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta deal with that shit. Man, I'm going through some of the slides on this lecture. Whew. This shit is fire. Go to Eventbrite and put in Into Deep Part 2, because this upcoming lecture is going to be part of the Into Deep lecture series. This is White Supremacy Decoded, Sunday, August 18th. I'm going to have the link in the description box. I would really, really appreciate if y'all pull up. You know what I'm talking about? I would really appreciate if y'all pull up and, allow me to share this information and allow me to share more research, because like I said, the research is flowing like the Nile. You know what I mean? Sirius rises and the Nile is inundated. Well, it plays off on the 33rd parallel, because I'm all the way over here in New York, and the Nile, the information is flooding. It's overflowing. There's like a deluge. Even if you look at what's going on in the news, there's a flood of information. The Nile is flooding. This whole Jeff Epstein thing, this is a flood. This is a revealing. This is a revelation. This is the peeling back of the veils. This is an exposure. Okay? The shit that's going on with their mass shootings and whatnot, and white supremacy being exposed and whatnot, and them peeling back, doing reports on it. Even though when CNN and them do a report on white supremacy, it's usually a commercial for white supremacy. It's usually a promotion for white supremacy. It's usually, them basically reaching out to unsuspecting white people out there and radicalizing them with the with the by being just by being conscious of white supremacy. They go and do their research, and that puts them in a rabbit hole, and they're going to be turned on to white supremacy 8 times out of 10 that they're going to be turned off from it. Now we got people who are riding with us and who are pro-black, who are sympathizers to our plight, or who are sympathizing with our rise. There are Europeans or white people or grays, as we like to call them, who are a part of that. But there are also those who are not a part of that, who decided that they were going to be fragile, who decided that they're going to tap into their quote unquote penis envy and their inferiority complex, and they're going to become haters because that's all you see in the quote unquote alt right, or that's all you see in these quote unquote these white militia movements and whatnot. They got nigger gripes because they haters. You understand? They hating on the gods. They hate the fact that we could call ourselves the gods and really walk in and talk that shit. And they hate the fact that they're called devils and they really could walk and talk that. They don't take too much pride in being devils or being devilish. Okay? Being devilish. This is devilish. A monstrous lynching. Mob storms South Carolina jail, puts 2 men and women to death. Georgia man soak man in gas, burn him alive. Mob lynches Negro, seized in hospital. And you niggas is like, the police won't let Jeff Epstein just walk out the jail. Negroes is lynched as Kentucky killer. You know what I mean? Negro burned at stake. 15,000 people look on. I can't make this up. I can't make this up. This is all purge. So while they were doing all of this, the FBI was like, what are you talking about? There's nothing wrong. Nothing's going on. Black people are safe. You know what I'm saying? They all right. There's no threat. Carry on. There's nothing to see here. Wait, who are these Negroes with barrettes and walking around with shotguns? Lock them up. You know, the fear of seeing us holding a gun. The great equalizer. The black penis, like Dr. Francis Cress Wilson broke down for you, and explained to you in the ISIS papers and the Cress theory. Let me Google the Cress theory because I'm looking for a slide with the elders' work in one of my lectures and I can't locate it. So let's just go to Google and pull up Dr. Francis Cress Wilson's ISIS, the Cress theory. So I could familiarize anybody who's not familiar with the Crest theory as to what she's talking about. Okay? All right. Yes. Rise in power, ancestor. And curse the souls of anybody who ever talked greasy about her. You can't be forgiven for that. You know what I mean? Curse the soul of anybody amongst our people who've ever talked greasy and who've ever gone against our master teacher. That's a fact. Give me a minute, y'all. She made a transition at 80. Like, how dare anybody in black society see what's going on in society with these Europeans and how they carry themselves and have the fucking audacity to talk crazy about our sister like that? Like, what the fuck did you contribute to the conversation? Where's your research at? Where's your papers? Where's your books? Where's your Donahue episodes? You know what I'm talking about? Like, there's some people out here, there's real fucking slimy, bro. There's wiggling all into this community, all around good people, and they pieces of shit based off of their politics, based off of the shit that comes out of their mouth, based off of their fucking track record. Okay, here's some quotes from the ISIS papers by Dr. Francis Cress Wilson. Racism is a universal operating system of white supremacy and domination in which the majority of the world's white people participate. That's on page 3. White skin is a form of albinism. There is no difference, microscopically speaking, between a white skin of a white person and the skin of a person designated as an albino. Page 23. Historically, white males worldwide have suffered the deep sense of male inferiority and inadequacy because they represent a mutant, genetically recessive minority population that can be genetically annihilated by all non-white people. Page 46. That's a unified field theory psychiatry. Go and do the research. Unified field theory psychiatry. Okay, that's a face tat. Constantine I, the Roman emperor, made Christian worship lawful in the beginnings of the white supremacy system, had the following words placed on the cross: in hoc signo vinces, meaning in this sign you will conquer. Currently, the majority membership of Christian churches is non-white, and all are held in control under the sign of the cross. That's a fact. They are all conquered. They are all subjects and vassals to that sign that they conquered in. Once we become aware of the deep humiliation that is apparently felt by whites because of their skin whiteness due to genetic mutation to albinism, and because of their genetic vulnerability when compared to non-whites, it is possible to understand the historically degraded status of sex in a white supremacy system culture. The gun is a symbol in a white supremacy system culture. It cannot be banned because it is the symbolic phallus substitute for the white male. The white male's penis and testicles genetically cannot annihilate black and other non-white males, but his gun can. Therefore, to ban the gun for the white male is to castrate him symbolically, to remove his defense mechanism for the ever-present threat of white genetic annihilation. That's page 151. The symbolism of smoking objects. Melanin is the black pigment which permits skin to appear other than white. Melanin is a superior absorber of all energy. The fact that the whites lack melanin may also help to explain why they have quite a different concept and understanding of God, and why, in the view of many non-white peoples, they lack spirituality and the capacity to tune in, thereby establish harmony and justice in the universe. Because they lack the melanin sensory system, they cannot intuit that all is one. That's page 171. The concept and the color of God. Black people are afraid, but black people are going to have to get over their fear. Black people do not know what is happening, but black people are going to have to learn and understand what is happening. Black people are not thinking, but black people are going to have to begin thinking. Black people are not being quiet, but black people are going to have to start being quiet so that they can think. Black people are not analyzing and planning, but black people are going to have to begin analyzing and planning. Black people do not understand deep self respect, but black people are going to have to learn the meaning and practice of deep self respect. Black people are going to have to stop permitting black children to play with parenthood. Black people are going to have to stop moaning, rocking, crying, complaining, and begging. Black people are going to have to stop thinking that rhyme and rhetoric will solve problems. Black people are going to have to stop finger popping and singing. Black people are going to have to stop dancing and clowning. Black people are going to have to stop laughing and listening to loud radios. All of these behaviors and many more have absolutely nothing to do with addressing the challenges and conditions of open warfare continuously being waged against a black collective. Page 183. The symbolism, logic, and meaning of justifiable homicide in the 1980s. Black females must understand that we will always be oppressed, as will our sons and daughters, unless black men are liberated to defend themselves. Black females and black children from any and all attacks and insults. The first lessons to black women were harsh and cruel ones of sexual assault and abuse, taking their children away and forcing them to watch their men being lynched and castrated. But then these harsh lessons were followed by milder treatment of black women as compared to black men. Black women were given extra food, money, clothing, and other gifts for their special favors to their enslavers. They were rewarded for correctly teaching their children to conform to the enslaver's wishes, as well as for telling their men to calm down and be patient so that they could too be rewarded. Page 248. Black children and black women moving towards the 21st century. As a collective, black males must realize that they have been fooled into believing that white females are their most loving allies. While white females are luring black men into bed and to the altar, the white female collective is depriving black men of their opportunity to function fully as breadwinners and not just sex machines. This is the last one. Stop name calling each other. Stop cursing at one another. Stop squabbling with one another. Stop gossiping about one another. Stop snitching on one another. Stop being discourteous and disrespectful towards one another. Stop robbing one another. Stop stealing from one another. Stop fighting one another. Stop killing one another. Stop using and selling drugs to one another. Stop throwing trash and dirt on the streets and in places where black people live, work, and learn. Okay? So as you can see, she was burning them up. She was burning them up. And she has left words of wisdom that we can live by and we can apply to our existence, and our experience and our walk. And we could develop we could follow her theory. So, you know, we're going to, like I said, we're going to continue to teach, from the perspective of standing on the truth, doing thorough research, bringing the receipts to the family. And once this becomes visual, meaning that once we take it from this forum into the forum of a documentary, into the forum of audio and video, into the form of a visual presentation where we can add music and where we can add all kind of, sprinkles. Yeah, we're going to paint that picture. You know what I'm talking about? That picture will be painted. This is light work. You know what I'm saying? But wrapping it up, like I said, This whole story that I was reading about how the mafia is connected to the Mossad and how the Mossad is connected to the U.S. corporations and the U.S. government, and how all of them are responsible for what you see as these sex trafficking rings, these prostitution rings, these organ harvesting rings, these these guns and butter rings, these drugs and these guns, these Iran Contra rings, what is known as rat lines. Everybody's in bed. This is deep state 101. This is it in plain. This is it. If you read the deposition, that's the deep state. If you read the deposition, that's the workings of Illuminati. How does the Illuminati work? You just read it. It's called a mega council. 20 philanthropists, 20 billionaires coming together as philanthropists for ethno-religious philanthropy, meaning that they're dumping all of their money into their causes. They have black athletes and actors and philanthropists apologizing for being ethno-religious or to be only for their ethno group. Whereas the Jews or the Zionists, for that matter, they're not apologizing. The Asians or the Chinese, they're not apologizing either. You know what I mean? Like they're putting on for their own people. They're putting on by any means. The way that they're moving, they're like by any means. We'll get our hands dirty. We'll get our hands bloody. We'll do what it takes to make sure the state of Israel comes into existence. We'll smuggle weapons. We'll smuggle children. We'll smuggle drugs. We'll do it all to make sure that the synagogue of Satan is intact. So for everybody that has visions of Wakanda, or for everybody who has visions of their own world or their own existence or their own town, whatever it may be, you know, there's formulas out there that you could follow. They still saying African Americans, so what tribe you come from? Well, that's there's so many tribes that are already in the Americas. Even before you get outside of America, there's people who belong to so many Aboriginal tribes that it goes without saying. We'll be here all day describing tribes. That's not the problem. That's not the problem at all. So for the family that's out there who go on my YouTube channel, I uploaded a 3-hour lecture at the one part of the In Too Deep. It's a part of the In Too Deep. It's 3 hours, and we get it in on Epstein. We go in on Epstein. We go in on the Franklin Boys Town scandal with the Larry King, the Black Larry King. We get into the Reagan White House male prostitution ring scandal, okay, with the dude named, I think it was Larry Spencer, and they killed him as well. Everybody's dead. Everybody's dead, and dead men don't talk. So there's a lot of bodies. The Clinton body count was trending on Twitter. This whole weekend has just been, I've never really seen a weekend in the news where what was considered to be conspiracy was all on the surface. Donald Trump retweeted a conspiracy theory about the Clintons being involved with Jeff Epstein's murder. Anything that gets retweeted from Donald Trump's Twitter account is official White House doctrine. Do you know that? Anything that he tweets, because his Twitter thing is now the official press. His Twitter is the press secretary for the White House. So anything that he tweets is considered to be bond. I don't know if you're aware of that out there, but anything that Donald Trump tweets, if he tweets a nigga's picture and says that that's public enemy number one, nigga, you're public enemy number one. Okay? Let me Google it real quick so I can show you. When I say that anything that he tweets is official White House doctrine. Tweets from Donald Trump, White House statements. So Donald Trump is even spreading conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? They're saying that the Clintons was out here killing shit. But here you go. What do that say? Trump's tweets are official White House statements. Okay, so you know that I'm not shooting for the hip. You know what I mean? There's a lot of niggas out here that be saying some real outlandish shit, and they won't never show you where the outlandish shit comes from. But his tweets are official White House statements. Okay, so Donald Trump. So I'm gonna show you what he tweeted, and he tweeted a brother, a black man, a black Republican, with this mad moist. That's mad moist, right? Trump again boasts a baseless conspiracy theory. This time it's about Jeff Epstein. There go your boy.
Shaking my head. I'm not surprised. I told y'all last month this was gonna happen, but didn't nobody want to listen to me. But then guess what? Next month he did, and you know what? All the liberals were calling me a conspiracy theorist, saying, Terrence, you coming up with crazy conspiracies, and you need to be banned from Twitter. And then guess what? The man really ended up dead, and you know what? He had information on the Clintons, and the man ended up dead. Now, for some odd reason, people that have information on the Clintons end up dead. And they usually die from suicide. Come on now. Now, how do everybody die from suicide that got information on you? Okay? You know what, to be honest with you, I don't want to know nothing about the Clintons. Don't tell me nothing. I'm not trying to end up there. I don't even want to know if Hillary was digging in her nose. I don't want to know if Bill Clinton eat boogers. Don't tell me nothing. I don't want to end up dead. I don't want to hear it. No. I can't hear you. I don't want to hear it. I'm not finna end up dead like everybody else. You know what? Now, I'm not going to say who killed that man because you know I could end up being, but the word around the street is the Clintons did it. I don't know though. Hey. I'm just another black man on Twitter. I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. I guess I don't know nothing. But so somebody tell me what's going on, because clearly, now how you end up dead and you are a high profile case in prison? Come on now. And you on suicide watch and you die of suicide in prison? Yeah, okay, somebody not doing their job, or somebody got paid not to do their job, so somebody can't get knocked off, so information don't come out. But I don't know nothing. I'm just another black man on Twitter.
God damn you boys. That's your mans in them, right? That's your mans in them? Somebody said that nigga used to be on Twitter eating chicken. Well, now he's being retweeted by Donald Trump. So that's the video that he retweeted. Of all the fucking videos, of all of the clips on Twitter, Donald Trump retweets some shit like that. So if you could see, you know, it's you know, it's a lot of distractions, man. This shit gonna be like JFK conspiracy. Like the Epstein conspiracy is gonna be another rabbit hole. But regardless of anything, the information is already out. You know what I mean? Yeah, even if they faked his death or even if he got bodied and whatnot, because he could have got bodied. But there was an inmate. Let me read what the inmate said. There was somebody who's familiar with that jail, and they said that it's impossible for Epstein to have committed suicide because just the way that the way that, that cell was set up. Okay. So we know about all of the protocols that they did not use that night. They were supposed to be looking in a cell every 30 minutes. They didn't do that. The guard was off duty. William Barr, who's basically the attorney general, who's responsible for that jail. His father is in bed with Jeff Epstein. That's Bill Barr, who gave him his first job as a headmaster at Dalton. So they're already in bed. That's Trump's boy. Trump is in charge of the U.S. justice system. He's in charge of the jails. If he don't want you to come out there alive, nigga, you'll come up missing because they run it. They are the top dogs. They run that whole jail. Okay. That's why I say when I think about the scenario, I just say that to fake the fact that you tried to kill yourself is possible. Like, that's not far fetched. They took his roommate out of his room. He shouldn't have had a roommate. He was just on suicide watch, and they took him off of suicide watch, and then they gave him a roommate. Now, if this person is a Mossad intelligence agent, everybody knows he's Mossad. If we know that he's Mossad, then the goddamn feds know that he's Mossad, right? He's intelligence. He knows everybody. It's not like niggas see Jeff, his face card is like, niggas is like, yo, that's Jeff. His girlfriend, Maxwell, her father, Richard Maxwell, he knows everybody. He's the big wig. You know what I mean? He's a mogul. So you're not hard to miss. They're in high society. They plugged into high society. They plugged into the quote unquote Illuminati. You know? They plugged into that whole syndicate, that underworld. So hold on. And you gotta be careful with all of these New York Posts. Like, you can't go to any old newspaper to read about these stories because, as you can see, these papers are owned by the mega group. These papers are owned by some of the same people that we're out here blowing up and exposing. You feel me? Okay, here it goes. So a former inmate says, there's no way that man could have killed himself. I've done too much time in those units. It's an impossibility. This informant spent several months in the 9 South Special Housing Unit for high-profile prisoners such as Epstein. Hold on. All of these pop-ups want to pop up. He said he spent there when he was awaiting trial. He revealed the height from the floor to the ceiling is like 8 or 9 feet. There's no way for you to connect to anything. You have sheets, but their paper level not strong enough. He, Epstein, was 200 pounds. It would never happen, asserted the former inmate. The man said that when an inmate's on suicide watch, he's dressed in a white schmuck, basically a straitjacket, because guards know a person can be injurious to himself. He ruled out the notion Epstein hung himself while standing on his bed. No, sir. There's a steel frame, but you can't move it. There's no light fixture. There's no bars. He also claimed that there isn't enough stuff inside a cell that can successfully create an instrument of death. You want to write a letter, they give you rubber pens and maybe once a week a piece of paper, nothing hard or made of metal. He said he didn't believe Epstein had a cellmate. He was too blown up. The psychological damage a prison of this type can inflict on the minds of inmates is immense. If it's like you're an animal and you've been into a kennel, a guy like Jeffrey, it's like, holy shit, I told my parents not to come here. God wasn't in the building. Most disturbingly, the man said if the guards see that a guy is breaking, they're just going to help you break. But it's my firm belief that Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide. It just didn't happen. Okay? So, you know, I'm gonna do my research. Um, for all of y'all to do y'all research. If you run across something that you think that's gonna help and assist with the because this is I'm crowdsourcing this this research. You know what I mean? I'm crowdsourcing it. I'm saying that there are people that are out there that already send me articles. Salute to everyone out there to contribute. Hit me on the DM on the gram and whatnot, or people that email stuff. I really appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Blue Pill sent me the article that I've been building on tonight. That's really peeling back so many layers. I'm gonna have to do a whole episode on that specifically, but everything coming in due time. So, yeah. With that being said, like I said, next weekend is the live stream. You get to see all of this stuff that we talking about tonight, including some other stuff. You'll get to see the visual components. You'll get to see, the lecture, just the breakdown. This shit is dynamic. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you a little preview right now. Yeah, but these people, man, and the Jeff Epsteins and the white supremacists, you know, I would never separate the two of them. It's all the same group. It's all the same movement. These quote unquote shooters that are running around, you know, obsessed with this white nationalism thing. This you will not replace us. You know what I'm saying? This whole cry to, preserve the quote unquote white race or to save the white race from annihilation. You do understand where all of that comes from. You do understand where all of that comes from. The fact that these white boys is running around, the one in Ohio, who basically killed 6 black people in Dayton, Ohio, right? Connor Betts. He killed a few Europeans, but he was mostly aiming at black people. That was a racially motivated massacre that took place last week during the Jason months, right? And right after the El Paso Walmart massacre, they had Connor Betts in Dayton, Ohio, basically committing a hate crime and basically committing an act of war and basically committing an act of terrorism on the homeland when he dressed up in in his armor. I guess it was a military armor, and in 45 seconds, it only was 45 seconds, right? Police killed him. It was only 45 seconds. That's all it took. He was in his way. He was gonna go into the bar. He was trying to get into the bar in order to turn that shit into the Happy Land Club. He was working on getting into there so he could turn it into the Pulse nightclub and really make a movie. Police killed him in 45 seconds. That's all it took. Headshot. Did you hear about that on the news? Did any of the black celebrities empathize? Did anybody say anything? Are we numb at this point? Are they taking niggas' temperature and seeing that, these niggas is having too much of a hot boy and hot girl summer to even stop the twerkage and, react to this shit, or to just say enough is enough, all right? Or for, just doing the knowledge to it. Just doing the knowledge. Nobody, you know what I mean? Because you can't expect shit from nobody in terms of smoke. So just doing the knowledge is just asking. You know what I mean? That's not even, this is a compromise. Just do the knowledge. Because during the Lionsgate, when that portal opened up, this is what they were doing. They started with El Paso. The shit opened up July 27th. The minute August started, they started with El Paso, right? With the shooting. No, before that it was the Garlic Fest. They leave out the Garlic Fest when they talk about mass shootings right now. They hop over that. It was the Garlic Fest. He was the one that pushed the Midas right. It was the El Paso, Texas. That's the manifesto, right? That was the manifesto against the mestizos and the Mexicans, right? And that person got caught. That shooter didn't get killed. He's in jail. And then you have the one right after that, which is Dayton, Ohio. The same Columbus, Ohio is where Wexner and the L brand and all of them is at. That's Columbus, Ohio. That's Knights of Columbus. You understand? That's a Masonic Illuminati hotbed. Okay? That's a hotbed. So Ohio, the significance of Ohio has a lot to do with, the giants in Ohio, the civilized tribes, the Serpent Mound. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that place is significant. So you had a race, you had a terroristic attack. You had a terroristic attack by a sleeper cell operative who, got his marching orders off of 8chan and basically went ahead and carried out a murder, a shooting spree. So that was during the portal opening up when I was reading to you about Sirius rising and all that. Keep in mind, you niggas went to see Aladdin, so whoever rubs the genie, whoever rubs the bottle is the one who summons the genie. So it's whatever you put through the portals, nigga, you're shooting in a gym. The portal is not. The portal ain't on some chill, son. That's not righteous. No, whatever work you put in is the work that you put in. The universe is still gonna answer you. So if they out here murdering shit, catching bodies and whatnot, and they're doing it to feed their deities and their gods and whatnot, and they're tapping into that Sirius rising, nigga, and white supremacy all over the news. That's all you being drowned in. White supremacy. During the time when the Lionsgate portal was open, when I told you I walked through that shit and I saw God. That's called a ritual, family. That's called a ritual, family. But also the fact that right after this portal opens up, then you see this death of this European who violated the divine female principle. Whether he's alive, if he's dead or alive, my spirit is telling me that is leaning more towards the fact that he might be alive. And then it's also saying that if he's dead, that the deep state and them people, Trump and the Clintons got him probably knocked. Once that report came out on Friday, it was too much. Something had to be done. It was revealing too much. Too much shit just came out. That's why they don't want you to read the deposition. They're not talking about it. They're glossing over it and going right to the suicide and some other shit. And they're giving you tidbits of it. Go and read, especially those of you or those of us who know how to read legal work, paperwork. Go check that out. It's right there on Google. Go pull it up. You know, that's a smoking gun. That's a smoking gun. She was naming some shit. And she was on them flight logs, my nigga. Like, the shit got receipts. Like, so it lays things out that you be like, oh God, okay then. So it's not speculation. This what it is. This how it, so like we broke down, it wasn't that he had a sex ring. He had a blackmail ring. He had a sex blackmail ring. Remember, why Jeff Epstein was on multiple boards. He was receiving checks from multiple Fortune 500 companies, and they put him in places where he was receiving a lot of bread. That right there was coming from the fact that he had a lot of dirt and a lot of, he was being rewarded by Israel because he was taking. All right, this is the scenario. You want some pimp shit. You want some Fillmore Slim shit, right? You on your pimps up, hoes down shit. You know what I mean? You get them dots. Like you got Luke dancers on your team. You know what I mean? You could get anything flued out, right? You connect with the oil barons, and you connect with the princes in Dubai, right? And the princes in Dubai pay top dollar for chicks that look like Meg Thee Stallion with the hot pink weave, right? They do Nicki Minaj lookalikes, they paying, bruh. So as the middleman, you become the plug, and you like, you know what? All right, fuck it. We gonna get flued out, y'all. You know what I mean? You hit up all of the Instagram thoughts, you get them all in one group. We getting flued out. We going to Saudi Arabia. Y'all go out there. You bug the hotel room with cameras and whatnot, right? And all of these little things, these spy things. The sheiks in them come in there. They want the girls to defecate in their mouth. They got the girls putting strap-ons and doing all kind of stuff. Some of them niggas bring goats in the room, and the goats are a part of the menage. All kind of shit going down. You get that on tape, right? You the pimp, right? You get all of that on tape. You get the hot, you know what I'm saying? You know, you get the tea, my nigga, right? You get a whole hard drive full of tea, right? You get a clip full for these niggas. Like, I got a clip on you niggas. I will unload it on you. I will pour hot tea on you because I got you in some compromising positions. Ain't you married? Right? Aren't you anti-LBGT? Well, I flew a little boy to a Republican party, and or I flew you to my island and you asked for a little boy, right? He's on Lolita Island. The whole island is basically bugged. It's basically retrofitted with cameras and microphones and whatnot. He's filming everything. He has tapes on Clinton. He has a safe in Manhattan. The Dr. Valentine said that they basically used a blackout that occurred about a month ago in New York City to go and take that safe, or to basically run up in that mansion and clean out whatever the feds didn't already clean out. Because right after he got arrested, there definitely was a blackout in the area where this nigga's mansion is. You understand? So he had a safe, and he had another place. He had another, he was basically blackmailing all of these people. But the reason why he was such a the reason why he's an asset, and the reason why he's in these Jewish owned mega group boards and companies, just getting checks on checks on checks on checks on checks. And the dude who's responsible for Victoria's Secret is his major financer and his top patron, and he basically gave him all of this. He gave him access to his whole empire. You know, there's you know what I'm saying, there's definitely a connection to all of that. You know, the connection is undeniable at the end of the day. And the fact that he had all of this dirt, he used that dirt to leverage himself into political circles. He used that dirt in order to buy him immunity. He used that dirt in order to bribe. But not just him. The fact that he is an asset is because he's Mossad intelligence. And what you do for Israel, you do for the state. What you do and the dirt that you do here, and when you pass it on and you empower them with that material, they use that and they leverage that material in order to get themselves into different positions. But remember, all of them are doing the same thing. All of them is a satanic, it's a whole satanic, cabal. It's a whole satanic, pedophilic, powerful, Romanistic, you know what I mean, Gothic, Visigothic, Ostrogothic, Germanic, you know what I mean, Roman, Vatican, you know what I mean, Constantinish, Luciferian, reptilian type of cabal. It's bigger than the mafia. It will swallow the mafia, but the mafia is basically, henchmen. They're henchmen. Like I said, during World War II, that's when the mafia was absorbed into the CIA, and they both became assets, and they've been working hand in hand ever since, which opened up the drug trade. They gave them free reign to the motherfucking horse race, and they flooded Harlem, the black Mecca, the black empire, with with heroin. All right. Once they neutralized the Garveys and some of the other leaders and whatnot, and the federal government or the feds carried out executions. They were carrying out death. They were carrying out assassinations and whatnot, and they were also carrying out, you know, deportations and shit like what they did to Garvey by setting him up with, with the tax evasion. With the mail fraud and shit like that through the feds. Like, they were playing dirty, but the mafia was flourishing. Scarface was flourishing. Lucky Luciano was flourishing. The dope trade, the triangle that they were building up, the fact that they built the commission and whatnot, that all started flourishing. Vegas was flourishing. Hollywood was flourishing. Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky, all of that, all of that. So they were allowed to dump heroin. They were allowed to put our people under a chemical attack. That's what the mafia was allowed to do by way of the CIA, by way of the government, and that's what they did. And then later on, they did it again through the cocaine. Okay? And now the players are basically operatives from Central America and South America, but still tied into their Jesuit, Roman Catholic, you know, circuits or networks for that matter. You know, so all of this is part of a system. You're being exposed to what the system is. Once we're finished with this, it's eyes wide open. You know what I mean? Nobody can't fool you and have you thinking something is when it's not. You know, so we're gonna just say to be continued on that note. Um, you know, I appreciate everybody. Like I said, it's getting it's that time. You know, We'll be back on Third Eye Thursdays. You know, I'll be in a, you know what I mean? We'll be back. I'll have more information. Like I said, this weekend we'll get up and we'll do this lecture. It's about 5 hours. It's visual. You know what I mean? You won't even probably see my face. You'll see the whole screen. You'll see the lecture. It's just gonna catch up to so much stuff that has already happened since we did our last installment of In Too Deep. But this version is white supremacy exposed, decoded. You know what I'm talking about? Demystified. You know. So we're gonna do what it do. Alright? Shout out to Empress B444. Y'all shout her out. Make sure y'all go and check out her podcast. Alright? Support what she's doing. Follow her on IG. Alright? Check out the Kings County for all of the going back to school. Alright, we got some new stuff on the website, Kings County. Go to ktlouniversity.com and sign up. Alright. All of these lectures are going to be available on ktlouniversity.com very soon. We're going to have courses. We're going to have everything that you need. All right. Go to facts2020.org and sign up. We need you to sign up. We need your support. We need y'all to get behind us. We are out here for real, on the front line, doing the work that needs to be done in the Jubilee year before 2020. You know what I'm talking about? Judge a man by his works and his deeds. And I don't think the family understands how, this is all encompassing. So I'm juggling a lot, businesses and everything. So, I'm giving attention to stuff. So this week I'll be back on my orders. I'll be back on some other things as well. But we just working. All right. So with that being said, love and light to the family. Peace.